This chart shows a classic symmetrical bell curve. If you went to school anywhere in the world, this is the foundational mental model you were taught to understand how things work. It is incredibly accurate for mapping the biological world. Look at human height. Almost everyone clusters tightly right here in the middle, and the data completely stops at the extremes. You will never meet a human being who is 500 feet tall. Because our biology obeys this neat symmetrical logic, we assume lives do too. We internalize the idea that success is proportional. Put in 10% more effort, and you get 10% more reward. Treating this biological reality as a rule for our careers creates a false sense of safety. It suggests that outcomes will always be as predictable as the height of the people around us. But if you work in a creative or competitive field, you know the exhaustion of the traditional work ethic. You put your head down and grind out consistent, slightly above average work week after week. You expect that steady consistency to pay off with a reliable upward trajectory. Instead, you end up stagnant, spinning your wheels and wondering what you're doing wrong. This frustration stems from applying a bell curve strategy to a world that obeys a different set of physics. This is the power law, an L-shaped distribution with a massive spike on the far left and a long, flat tail. Here, proportionality disappears. Extreme outliers completely overshadow the average, rendering that flat tail practically irrelevant. We see this in geography and economics. Global wealth and urban populations cluster heavily inside that tiny sliver of extreme outliers. Even in streaming, the top 6 being in the middle offers no safety or relevance because the outliers dominate the system. To understand why these outcomes are so heavily skewed, physicists look at a concept called self-organized criticality. Picture a conical pile of sand. As individual grains slowly fall onto the pile, they build up invisible structural tension within the mound. Eventually, the pile reaches a critical threshold. One seemingly insignificant grain tips the balance, triggering a massive, chaotic avalanche. The defining feature of the system is absolute mathematical unpredictability. It is impossible to calculate exactly which grain will cause the collapse. In creative and financial systems, every project or effort is a grain of sand. Most do nothing, but a rare few trigger a structural shift. Because that trigger is mathematically hidden, linear effort can never guarantee the avalanche of success. Our natural instinct is to run from volatility. We seek out the safe, average consistency of the bell curve. We pour all our time, capital, and energy into a single, reliable-looking project. But in an unpredictable system, betting everything on one outcome is the most mathematically dangerous strategy you can deploy. Since you cannot predict the exact trigger of the avalanche, you have to change your relationship with risk and chaos. Instead of average consistency, you need a framework called asymmetric betting. This matrix charts your risk, the downside, against your reward, the upside. We want to isolate our actions to this specific quadrant: low risk, infinite reward. The first rule is strict downside limitation. Every bet you place must be structured so that failure won't cause burnout, bankruptcy, or ruin. The second rule is exponential upside. The project has to possess the capacity to trigger a massive power law avalanche if it succeeds. Once those two conditions are met, the final necessity is volume. Because the critical state of the world is unpredictable, you must place these specific, constrained bets repeatedly to catch an outlier. Actualized success requires abandoning the false comfort of the predictable curve and intelligently placing bets into the chaos.